Hi, good afternoon, children. This is Mrs. Johnson. I'm going to read from our book, The Secret Garden, and we're in page 19, chapter 19, sorry. You might hear my dog, Rudy, uh, breathing a little bit in the background. We just came back from a walk. So this is just an audio recording. There's no pictures, but settle down and enjoy. Things are crowding up out of the earth, Mary ran on in a hurry. There's flowers uncurling and buds, everything, and the green veil has covered nearly all the gray, and the birds are in such a hurry about their nests, for fear they may be too late, that some of them are even fighting for places in the secret garden, and the rose bushes look a wick as wick can be, and there are primroses in the lanes and woods, and the seeds we planted are up, and Dickon has brought the fox and the crow and the squirrels and a new-born lamb. And then she paused for breath. The new-born lamb that Dickon had found 3 days before, lying by its poor dead mother among the gorse bushes on the moor, it was not the first motherless lamb Dickon had found, and he knew what to do with it. He had taken it to the cottage, wrapped in his jacket, let it lie near the fire to warm, and fed it with warm milk. It was a soft little thing with a darling, silly baby face, and legs that were too long for its body. Dickon had carried it over the moor in his arms, and its feeding bottle was in his pocket, with a warmness huddled and was huddled sorry. Its feeding bottle was in his pockets with a squirrel. And when Mary had sat under a tree with its limp warmness huddled on her lap, she had felt as if she too were full of strange joy. A lamb, a living lamb, who lay on your lap like a baby. She was describing it with great joy, and Colin was listening and drawing in long breaths of air when the nurse entered. She started a little at the sight of the open window. She had sat stifling in that room many a warm day because her patient was sure that open windows gave people colds. "Are you sure you're not chilly, Master Colin?" she inquired. "No," was the answer. "I'm breathing long breaths of fresh air. It makes you strong. I'm going to get up to the sofa for breakfast. My cousin will have breakfast with me." The nurse went away, concealing a smile, to give the order for 2 breakfasts. She found the servants' half more amusing place than the invalid's chamber, and just now everybody wanted to hear the news from upstairs. There was a good deal of joking about that unpopular young recluse, who, as the cook said, had found his master, and good for him. The servants' hall had been very tired of the tantrums, and the butler, who was a man with a family, had more than once expressed his opinion that the young invalid would be all the better off for a good hiding. When Colin was on his sofa and the breakfast for 2 was put on the table, he made an announcement to the nurse in his most Rajah-like manner. "A boy, a fox, and a crow, and 2 squirrels, and a newborn lamb are coming to see me this morning. I want them brought upstairs as soon as they come," he said. "You are not to begin playing with the animals in the servants' hall and keep them there. I want them here." The nurse gave a slight gasp and tried to conceal it with a cough. "Yes, sir," she answered. "I'll tell you what you can do," added Colin, waving his hand. "You can tell Martha to bring them up here. The boy is Martha's brother. His name is Dickon. He's an animal charmer." "Well, I hope the animals won't bite, Master Colin," said the nurse. "I told you the boy is a charmer," said Colin sternly. "Charming animals never bite." "There are snake charmers in India," said Mary, "and they can put the snakes' heads right in their mouths." "Goodness!" shuddered the nurse. They ate their breakfast in the morning with the air pouring in upon them. Colin's breakfast was a very good one, and Mary watched him with serious interest. "You will begin to get fatter just as I did," she said. I never wanted any breakfast when I was in India, and now I always want it. I wanted mine this morning, said Colin. Perhaps it was the fresh air. When do you think Dickon will come? He was not long in coming. In about 10 minutes, Mary held up her hand. Listen, she said. Did you hear a caw? Colin listened and heard the oddest, strangest sound in the world to hear inside of a house. It was a very hoarse caw, caw. Yes, he said. That's Soot, said Mary. Listen again. Do you hear a bleat, a tiny one? Oh, yes, cried Colin, quite flushing. That's the newborn lamb, said Mary. He's coming. Dickon's moorland boots were thick and clumsy, and though he tried to walk quietly, they made a clumping sound as he walked through the long corridors. Mary and Colin could hear him marching, until at last he passed through the tapestry door and into the soft carpet of Colin's own hallway. If you please, sir, announced Martha, opening the door. If you please, sir, here's Dickon and his creatures. Dickon came in smiling his widest, nicest smile. The newborn lamb was in his arms, and the little red fox trotted by his side. Nut sat on his left shoulder, and Soot on the right shoulder, and Shell's head and little paws were peeping out of his coat pocket. Colin slowly sat up and stared, as he had stared when he first saw Mary, but this was a stare of wonder and delight. The truth was, in spite of it all he had heard, he had not in the least understood what this boy would be like, and that his fox and his crow and his squirrels and his lamb were so near to him, and his friendliness, that they seemed almost to be a part of himself. Colin had never talked to a boy in his whole life, and he was so overwhelmed by his own pleasure and curiosity that he did not even think of speaking. But Dickon didn't feel the least shy or awkward. He had not felt embarrassed because the crow had not known his language and only stared and not spoken to him the first time they met. Creatures were always like that until they found out about you. So he walked over to Colin's sofa and put the newborn lamb quietly onto his lap, and immediately the little creature turned to the warm dressing gown made of velvet and began to nuzzle into its folds and butt its tight-curled little head with soft impatience against its side. Of course, no boy could have helped speaking then. "What's it doing?" cried Colin. "What does it want?" "It wants its mother," said Dickon, smiling more and more. "I brought it to thee a bit hungry, 'cause I knowed thee'd like to see it feed." Then he knelt down by the sofa and took the feeding bottle from his pocket. "Come on, little un," he said, turning the small woolly white head with a gentle brown hand. "This is what thou's after. Thou'll get more out of this than thou will get out o' silk velvet coats. There now," he said, and pushed the rubber tip of the bottle into the nuzzling mouth, and the lamb began to suck it with ravenous ecstasy. After that there was no wondering what to say. By the time the lamb fell asleep, questions poured forth, and Dickon answered them all. He told them how he had found the lamb just as the sun was rising 3 mornings ago. He had been standing on the moor listening to a skylark and watching it swing higher and higher into the sky until he was just one speck in the heights of blue. "I'd almost lost him before his song, and I was wondering how a chap could hear it when it seemed as if he'd get out of the world in a minute. And just then I heard something far off among the gorse bushes. It 'twas a weak bleatin', and I knowed it was a new lamb, was hungry, and I knowed it wouldn't be hungry if it hadn't lost its mother somehow. So I set off a-searchin'. I did have a look for it. I went out in the mornin' and amongst the gorse bushes and around, and I seemed to always take the wrong turnin'. But at last I seed a bit of white by a rock up on top o' the moor, and I climbed up, and I found the little un half dead, with cold and clemmin'. While he talked, Soot flew solemnly in and out of the open window and cawed his remarks about the scenery, while Nut and Shell made excursions into the big trees outside and ran up and down the trunks and explored the branches. Captain curled up near Dickon, who sat on the hearth rug from preference. Hearth rug. They looked at the pictures in the gardening books, and Dickon knew all of the flowers by their country names and knew exactly which ones were already growing in the secret garden. I couldna say that their name, he said, pointing to one under which was written Aquilegia, but us calls that a columbine, and that there one it's a snapdragon, and they grow wild in the hedges, but these is garden ones, and they're bigger and grander. There's some big clumps of columbine in the garden. They'll look like a bed of blue and white butterflies fluttering when they're out. I'm going to see them, cried Colin. I'm going to see them. Aye, that the mun, said Mary quite seriously, and the munnet lose no time about it. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 19. Next I'll read 20, and you can see on the post that it'll say chapter 20, and this is 19. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday.